Zombie games, zombie games, zombie games.
Hey Joe, you wanna play a zombie game?
Yeah, boy.
They are some of the most popular horror games out there, with games like Resident Evil, Dead Rising, and Left 4 Dead. Now, what if you took the concept of a zombie game and crossed it with the genre of an MMORPG? Well, you would probably get the game that is today's subject, Dead Frontier 2. Now, I will have to admit, this game isn't really an MMORPG. No, it's more like just an open world RPG that tends to have some multiplayer elements to it. Things like being able to party with other players, explore the city with a group of people, and being able to level up and maybe do some light PvP here and there. Now, my personal experience with the Dead Frontier franchise is actually pretty short. I played the original Dead Frontier a couple years ago, just finding it randomly one day when I was exploring the internet. I thought it was fine for what it was. A two-dimensional zombie online shooting game was pretty novel back then, and hell, it's still playable today. But Dead Frontier 2, it's the fully realized game that Dead Frontier was trying to be, and it's probably what most people would think when you say survival horror MMO. There's nothing wrong with the original, but the sequel improves upon so much of what the original was trying to do. It's actually pretty impressive. Over the past couple weeks, I've been playing Dead Frontier 2 in my spare time, learning the game's features and generally what it had to offer beyond the fact that you can play with nudity turned on.
What?
Legitimately, yeah, there is a nudity option that can be turned off or on in this game.
What the fuck?
You won't last 5 minutes playing this game.
Kind of funny that it's an option, but I guess it makes sense in the context of the game. Like, realistically, some of the zombies would be butt-ass naked. That makes sense.
Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
Anyways, besides that, what does the game have to offer, and is it worth playing? But before we get into that, I gotta ask if you can please support the channel by giving this video a like and hitting the subscribe button. We're trying to get to the 10K sub mark so I can throw away my life to the YouTube gods and take this shit a little more seriously. Jokes aside though, supporting the channel only takes a moment of your time and it's completely free to do so. So if you choose to, you have my eternal gratitude. Anyways, let's get on with the video. Should you play Dead Frontier 2? Maybe.
Stay away from us.
My children are dead.
This world's gone to crap. You'll die in here, along with the rest of us. Good luck.
The story for Dead Frontier 2 is pretty basic, ladies and gents. You are a survivor during a zombie apocalypse. Just get out there, find loot, help those in need, and kill zombies. That's really about it. There is story lore that is hidden behind audio logs and text files that you find sometimes while exploring buildings, but for the most part, you won't be learning anything about Dead Frontier 2's world through cutscenes or being told outright by the game, which, to be fair, is completely fine. Not every game needs an epic story told to you. But what I can tell you that this game has is atmosphere. While the game's story department arguably lacks, it makes up for that with its theming and tone. The city is incredibly dark and foreboding, with the game constantly giving a feeling of hopelessness and loneliness, which is great because obviously that is what the game is going for. Ironically, all of that goes out the window when you see other players and quest NPCs in the hubs, but I digress. Now that I bring up other players and quest hubs and such, now would be the part of the video where I talk about gameplay and generally what Dead Frontier 2 has to offer when you play it. Character creation in the game is pretty bare bones. You have your choice of being male or female, choosing skin tone, a couple of different faces, a few different really bad looking hairstyles, and then choosing your hair color. Once you've decided how ugly and dirty your character looks,
Why are you so fucking ugly, bro?
you choose a name and then you are plopped into the game starting at the first main quest hub where you will begin to learn how to play. So generally, Dead Frontier 2 can be described as an online looter shooter rather than an MMORPG, even though the game advertises itself to an extent as an MMO. More on that little tidbit later. When you begin your journey in DF2, after creating your character, you'll quickly realize the game doesn't hold your hand, like at all. No in-depth tutorial, no guide, just a hunk of wood as your melee weapon and a little pea shooter. Controls are pretty easy to understand if you have played Resident Evil 4 before. Move around with the WASD keys, left clicking and right clicking attacks depending on if you have a melee weapon or a gun, E interacts with shit around the map, etc. Once you get your bearings in the game, you'll find yourself picking up a number of quests at the hub and beginning your journey into the city. Fighting zombies, at least in the early levels, will feel incredibly clunky. Melee attacks are incredibly sluggish and leave you open to getting damaged. Your pea shooter is pretty ineffective unless you land specifically headshots, and reloading takes forever. This is by design though. As you level up, all those problems you face in the early game will melt away as you improve your character. Every level up provides you with the skill points that can be spent on various perks that improve your stats. Things like reload speed, melee damage, gun damage, walk speed, hunger, and thirst management. Healing can all be improved as you level up, eventually turning you into a killing machine. Other things you may notice will be how simplified the game's HUD is. You can't see your own health unless you stop in your tracks and bring up your menu. All you can normally see is the meters in the bottom left, indicating sprint, dodge, kick, and if you have any status effects. To be fair though, the older survival horror games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill were similar in their HUD, showing very little information during gameplay and only showing health or other parameters within the pause/game menu. The aforementioned daily quests that you take on will take you into the randomly generated city. Each day the city is refreshed, sort of like a loot lock being reset. So buildings that you went into the previous day can be relooted for items, and all of them will also have a completely different map layout. Back on quests, they are unfortunately quite simple. Nothing like solving intricate puzzles in other survival horror games. No, DF2's quests pretty much boil down to walk to a specific green spot on your map, find the building associated with the quest, and complete a simple task. The quests can range from kill a certain number of zombies, find and talk to an NPC in the building, collect drops from killing zombies, or finding a specific item to take back to the quest hub. I suppose this is fine, but if they really want to lean into the survival horror genre, my suggestion would be to implement puzzles or brain teasers that can help shake up the monotony of the current quest structure. Within the buildings that you explore, there are a few random tidbits that can make exploring a little more interesting each time you go into a building. First are boss rooms, which are pretty self-explanatory. Sometimes when you are exploring, you will come across a room that has 3 red question marks above, indicating there is a boss encounter in that room. Second would be locked doors that require a key to open them. The locked doors are about as close to old school survival horror as this game will get, but at least the game does randomly generate small events like this. Other activities besides the buildings you can explore are the world map events. On the map screen, you will see purple highlighted spots indicating an event much like Fates in Final Fantasy XIV. These world events are usually just very simple tasks like the quests, more or less being just kill X number of zombies or kill a boss creature. Besides the map events are outpost attacks, where a quest hub will come under heavy zombie attack, encouraging players to work together and fight back against the zombies. If an outpost fails to be protected, all the quests will become unavailable for a short time and the building will have zombies in it. However, if you are able to defend the outpost, you are rewarded with experience as well as a buff that improves your loot drops depending on how many zombies you killed during the event. PvP in DF2 is pretty standard since it will feel like a third-person shooter. There are 2 dedicated PvP zones on the world map that you can visit if you are feeling pretty frisky with other players. You could also join a dedicated PvP server or create your own PvP lobby for players to join and engage in some PvP fun. There are a couple things to note about DF2's PvP that adds some merit to it as well. First, let's mention the leaderboards. The leaderboards show the top players of different categories for every day, week, month, and lifetime on their account. The categories include top XP earned, times looted, bosses killed, quests completed, challenges completed, and you guessed it, top PvPer. Not only does this add bragging rights, but you do earn potential cash shop currency if you are the top player in a category during the daily, weekly, or monthly rankings. PvP also rewards players with a permanent buff upon reaching PvP rank 1, which is like a PvP level. So in summary, there is actually reasons to PvP in this game versus others. Endgame in DF2 is kinda like Diablo to an extent. Max level is level 50, which depending on how often you play can take you a while to achieve. Once you are level 50, endgame is about finding the best gear that best fits your playstyle. Since all the gear perks is randomized, finding that perfect gun that best suits how you want to play can take a while, but that's made that way on purpose. Content-wise, everything I just described, from questing, killing bosses, doing events, and playing PvP, is the end game, just more scaled to max level, which is completely fine considering the game isn't trying to be a top-of-the-line MMORPG experience, and it's not like bigger and better endgame content can't be implemented in the future. Overall, it's a relatively enjoyable looter shooter in small spurts. So yeah, we've talked about the gameplay, but what about the monetization? Do we need to pay for this game? Well, no, it's a completely free-to-play game with a cash shop and an optional subscription. The cash shop is pretty harmless. All it sells is cosmetic items and a few account upgrades like storage expansions, auction house expansions, and extra character slots. The cosmetics, unfortunately, can be really hard to see on your character, especially really small items like pistols. I suppose if you want to stand out more than other players, go ahead and go crazy, but personally, the cosmetics are just not enough. Maybe if they had special effects or something, but for now, I pass on spending money on that. The subscription service is called the Gold Membership. The Gold Membership gives your characters some buffs like extra experience earned and extra luck in finding gear. It borders on the line between pay to win and pay to progress, but honestly, any gear you want, you could just technically buy on the auction house. Lastly, you do get some cash shop currency for subscribing as well, so if you want to support the game, the subscription is the best way to go. In summary, ladies and gents, Dead Frontier 2 and the franchise in general, I guess you could say it's a franchise since there is 2 games. DF2 is a perfectly fine game if you are looking for an online zombie looter shooter. I mean, it's surprising that there isn't like a Resident Evil Online MMORPG or something. Either way, let's wrap up this video with my pros and cons. DF2 is a looter shooter at heart. Much of your grind will be getting better and better equipment with randomly generated stats. If you like looting based RPGs like Diablo, Destiny, or Borderlands, DF2 might be worth checking out. I think I'm stating the obvious here, but Dead Frontier 2 is really one of the only online RPGs out there that takes place in the survival horror genre. Imagine playing Resident Evil alongside a friend online. That's essentially the experience this game gives players. For technically being a small budget indie title, it has a good amount of features going for it. It's not mind-blowing by any means, but the title does have a little bit of everything. The game's overall performance, graphics, and presentation is probably one of its strongest features. Everything in the environment is dark and dreary. Zombies look incredibly grotesque, especially bosses like the Stalker. Hell, even the music is pretty darn good during those encounters, giving that sense of dread and panic. Lastly, the game's community is relatively small, but lively. There are events on a pretty regular basis to encourage daily play, and the devs have posted a roadmap to show what they have in the upcoming months. For all the praises I can give the game, especially for its effort, admittedly, the game does lack polish. As I stated earlier in the video, combat and movement in the early game can feel really clunky, and while it does get better the more you level up, I can't ignore how slow and gimped you feel when starting out. Compared to other games in the genre, the menu system has a lot to be desired. Simple things like being able to compare equipment to what you currently have equipped would be a godsend, or being able to organize your items more easily. A lack of tutorial feels a bit weird for this game as well, since it literally just drops you into a quest zone and that's it. No on-screen prompts, no cutscene giving any sort of indication on what you may want to do, absolutely nothing, although they have indicated they want to implement one. The game's quote-unquote dungeons or buildings simply feel really cramped. Everything is a narrow hallway or a small room. I understand it's trying to give you a tense situation when you are in a small room with so many zombies, but a little more variety in how some of the rooms are spaced would be nice, or at least have these instance buildings with less loading zones. Every single room or staircase you go through has to load the next area. Ideally, the whole building should be all one instance, like the open world. Lastly, the game not having a dedicated endgame or goal does hurt its lastability slightly. Things like dedicated raids or dungeons would be absolutely amazing for this type of game. Imagine a mall type setting where you and 3 other players have to fight your way through it Dead Rising style. That would be amazing, but alas, it's not here. At least not yet. Maybe one day. Well, ladies and gents, that's another online game in the books. If you enjoyed this video on Dead Frontier 2, let me know down below in the comment section. If you feel so inclined, you can support the channel completely for free by subscribing and liking the video. After all, it only takes a moment to do so. You can also follow me on my social media links like Twitter, Discord, and Twitch. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. I'm gonna go kill some more zombies, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!
Oh